I'm Dr. P. Soumya, and I'll be teaching you guys with Sangeeta ma'am. First of all, coming to the history of RH antigen. If there is any issue, you can message in the chat box, right? Coming to history of RH antigen, three scientists, Rhesus, Karl Landsteiner, and Wiener, they in 1940 did research on RH antigen, and what they found that rabbits, when immunized with RH monkey red cells, produce an antibody that also agglutinates the red blood cells of many humans. Again, then Dr. Philip made a connection between RH factor and the incidence of erythroblastosis fetalis. So what is RH isoimmunization? Development of antibodies in an RH negative mother towards RH positive RBCs of the fetus is RH isoimmunization. And severe RH isoimmunization to increased titers can lead to erythroblastosis fetalis. What is erythroblastosis fetalis? It is the outcome of RH isoimmunization. Basically, it is disease of fetus and newborn that is caused due to hemolysis of fetal red blood cells by antibodies produced by mother, which crosses the placenta. And this erythroblastosis fetalis can lead to fetal anemia, massive edema, that is hydrops fetalis in the baby, heart failure in the baby, or in severe cases, it can lead to an IUD, intrauterine death. We should know that 97% of the cases of isoimmunization are by RHD antigen, and rest are caused by the minor forms of antigen, rest of the 3% of the cases. Coming to genetics of RH antigen is located on the short arm of chromosome 1, and the nomenclature which we use commonly was given by Fisher and Race, who have defined the 6 major RH antigens, that is D, capital C, small c, E, small e, and G. Now, presence or absence of the D antigen is used to designate whether a woman is RH positive or RH negative. Out of all these major antigens, D is the most immunogenic. Hello. Yes. Okay, ma'am. So out of these 6 major antigens, D is the most immunogenic. And after that, it is small c, then E, small e, then capital C. Coming to incidence of RH negative pregnancies, in whites, it is around 15%, 7 to 8% in black population. In Asians, it is seen around 2%, and in our country, it is 3 to 5%. About 1%. Hello. Yes, ma'am. मैम एक सेकंड आई जस्ट हाँ वो मैम आप ज्वाइन कर लेंगे उसके बाद आई कैन So the incidence in Indian population is 3 to 5%. About 1% of all the Rh negative women will get ICU immunized in antepartum period, and 7 to 8% within 6 months of delivery. We should keep in mind that the maximum incidence of immunization is ICU immunization is during delivery, at the time of delivery. Coming to incidence of Rh ICU immunization, the incidence will mainly depend upon the maternal inborn unresponsiveness, that is in 30% of the cases, amount of feto-maternal hemorrhage that has occurred, the strength of the immunogenic stimulus that we discussed, that the most immunogenic is a capital D, then ABO incompatibility. ABO incompatibility reduces the risk to 1.5 to 2%.
Dr. Soumya,
yes, ma'am.
Can we tell them why these ABO incompatibility reduces the risk of reduces the risk of Rh ICU immunization? Hello.
Hello. Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Why does ABO incompatibility reduce the risk of Rh ICU immunization?
Yes, ma'am. The ABO incompatibility will decrease the number of immunized RBCs, ICU immunized RBCs, and hence the available RBCs for Rh ICU immunization will be less, ma'am.
Actually, what happens in ABO incompatibility is because of ABO incompatibility, the RBCs get the antibody, these Rh positive cells get destroyed.
And they will not be available.
They cannot, generate that immune response in the mother, that sensitization. They are not available in the circulation of the mother long enough to sensitize the mother to the RhD antigen. That is the reason that if there is coexisting ABO incompatibility with Rh incompatibility, then sensitization is minimized. Okay. Yeah. Next slide, please. And just can we go back to the previous slide? One more slide, please. Yeah. So why there is maximum ICU immunization during delivery? Because maximum feto-maternal hemorrhage occurs during pregnancy. Next slide, please. Carry on, Soumya.
Yes, coming to causes of feto-maternal hemorrhage, they can be abortion, ectopic pregnancy, threatened abortion, fetal invasive procedures including chorionic villus sampling and amniocentesis, multiple gestation, antepartum hemorrhage, manual removal of placenta, instrumental deliveries, cesarean section, and stillbirths.
So these are the lists where the feto-maternal hemorrhage occurs, including normal delivery. Okay. And all these situations are situations which we will tell you subsequently, that you need to administer anti-D immunoglobulin, which is a method to prevent Rh ICU immunization. Next, please.
Then there are tests available for.
Soumya, have we explained them what is ICU immunization?
Yes, ma'am. In initial slides we have done.
Okay, we have done it. Yeah, please then carry.
It is.
Please carry on.
So there are tests for detecting ICU immunization, and these can the most commonly used one are antiglobulin or Coombs test. These are again of two types: indirect Coombs test and direct Coombs test. In indirect Coombs test, the Rh positive RBCs are incubated with patient's serum, and then antiglobulin, that is human antisera. This in figure you can see the yellow structure. Human antisera is added, which produces agglutination. And the reciprocal of the highest dilution in which agglutination is seen is referred to as the titer. So the greater the titer, it means that the a greater dilution we had to do. Hence, we can infer from there that the quantity of antibodies was more in that women, where the ICT titer is raised. And so this is is performed on maternal blood. And on the contrary,
Just
The
one
other
moment,
test,
Soumya.
yes, ma'am.
Soumya,
Yes,
just one moment. So if you will see the figure, they have written in indirect antiglobulin test. These RBCs in the first figure, these are not the RBCs of the mother. These are extraneous RBCs. Okay, which already have, these are extraneous RBCs which have the antigen present on their surface, Rh positive antigen present. Am I right, Soumya?
yes, ma'am. These are the
These are
RBCs we have
Rh
added.
positive RBCs, which are not
Yes,
the RBCs of the mother. We only take the sera of the mother, which has got uh, antibodies which will be reactive to Rh positive antigens. So when you mix the sera with the this mother's sera with the RBCs, these reagent erythrocytes, which is written as reagent erythrocytes, these kind of antigen antibody complexes will be formed. Okay, and once you add these agglutinin, this anti-IgG, which have got multiple receptors on their surface. So these antigen with antibody complex RBCs, they go and stick, and because multiple RBCs can go and attach to a single anti-IgG reagent, then you can these erythrocytes will clump together, and this is visible as an agglutinated sample. So here you are going to take maternal serum sample. Okay, next slide, please. And this is a method. This is a method to detect, yes, the mother is getting immunized. There when probably the fetus is Rh positive by feto-maternal hemorrhage, the RBCs of the fetus has come in the maternal circulation and it is generating antibodies because mother's blood doesn't have Rh positive cells. So it is identified as a foreign antigen and mother's blood starts producing these antibodies. Yes, I think Soumya, you can go to the next slide.
yes, ma'am. Then the other test is direct Coombs test. Here again we can see that here we add antiglobulins directly, and the patient blood is like RBC. Here the patient will be the fetus because this test is exclusively performed on the fetus, either fetus or the newborn.
Yeah.
So the yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So this test, the direct Coombs test, is performed either on the fetal blood if we are going to do a chordosynthesis and take out the fetal sample whenever indicated, or after the baby is born, the blood of the neonate is collected and sent for testing. Now, with the RBCs, which you can see in this figure with the Rh positive antigen in blue color and with those green antibodies, this is already there in the baby's blood. So it is the RBCs of this neonate or the fetus which we take, and we only add this this anti-IgG globulin, which has got multiple receptors on its surface, and when these kind of RBCs, multiple RBCs will stick together and agglutinate them, which is visible as a agglutinated sample. So here you, if it is positive, then we know that on the surface of the, these are Rh positive cells because there are Rh and positive antibodies from the maternal circulation which have come here, and that is why this anti-IgG is able to agglutinate these cells. I hope we are clear. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. Soumya, you can
So that
continue.
we can on, yes, ma'am. Then the other tests which are available for detecting isoimmunization are enzyme pretreatment and agglutination test. The enzyme pretreatment test is very sensitive test and can detect microgram quantities of antibodies. And the agglutination test can be of two types, saline or colloid. But the most commonly performed test we have already discussed, antiglobulin or Coombs test. Now, starting with the management of any Rh negative women, we have to classify the Rh negative women into two groups. Either she will be non-immunized woman or an immunized woman. How we will say that a woman is immunized? Again, we will just now we discussed, we will be doing ICT titers. And if it is positive, it means that the woman is immunized. Then immunized women will be again divided into two categories. That is first affected pregnancy, or second, the previous affected pregnancies. First affected pregnancies, by this we mean that ICT is positive in this pregnancy. And in previous affected pregnancies, by this we mean that previous babies have been affected as hydrops, or they have a history of exchange transfusion postnatally, which will give us the clue that baby was having that the pregnancy was isoimmunized and was manifested as erythroblastosis fetalis in the baby.
Or maybe the previous baby had jaundice, or the previous baby did not have any problem, just mild anemia, but there is documentation in the records of the patient where ICT titers were positive or had crossed critical levels, or the DCT of the baby was positive and the blood group of the baby was positive. That means isoimmunization had occurred in that pregnancy. The fetus may or may not have got affected. Is it okay? Yeah. Carry on, Soumya. Yeah, so the first step in the management of any woman is, any antenatal woman is, whenever she comes to you for the first time, you have to do her blood group, ABO-RH typing. And ideally, an antibody screen should also be done, because there are many other type of minor antigens which may be positive and can have an implication, because they can also cause hemolytic disease of the newborn. Okay, but here we are going to stick to the discussion of only RHD antigen. Okay, Soumya, please carry on. So if any woman is RH negative, then how do you proceed? Just let's discuss that first.
Yes, ma'am. In the non-immunized RH negative women, first of all, we will do father's RH. We will
No,
send.
Dr. Soumya, it is not
Yes,
a
ma'am.
question of non-immunized. Any pregnant woman who
Any
comes
pregnant woman.
and she's RH negative, we have to do the husband's blood group.
Husband status. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
And
we
if
have
it
to
is
find out the
negative,
husband's blood group first.
what is the RH status of the husband? Then,
Yeah.
if it is negative, then we will treat it as a normal pregnancy. Although we will be giving prophylaxis, we will be discussing soon. And if it is positive, then either the husband would be a homozygous, that then there will be 100% chance of fetus being RH positive, or husband would be heterozygous, and there will be 50% chance of fetus being RH positive.
So, Soumya,
So
can we go
yes,
back to the previous slide, please? So now if the husband is positive, next one, please. If the husband is negative, RH negative, then you don't need to do anything at all. She is just like any other pregnancy. However, if the husband is positive and homozygous, how to find out whether homozygous or heterozygous? If you can get a genotype of the husband's sample done, but this is an expensive investigation and not very freely available. And the advantage of getting it is that if it is heterozygous, one can do an amniocentesis or one can do an NIPT. Next slide, please. One can do either amniocentesis, take out the fetal sample and see if the baby is positive or negative. Do a ABOR. We can see in the DNA of the baby what is the genotype of the baby. If it is again a negative, RH negative, then again it is like any other pregnancy. If the mother is negative and the fetus is negative, you don't have to do anything. You can just leave her alone, no monitoring, no ICT, no MCA peak systolic velocity, and no anti-D to be given. Similarly, now there is a newer technology which is known as non-invasive prenatal testing. This is another way of detecting fetal blood groups in prenatal maternal sample. The advantage of NIPT is you can test for the blood group of the mother in the maternal sample. It is a non-invasive technique, and this is most commonly used in the current scenario is for aneuploidy screening. However, this is very sparsely available in India still, and it is very expensive. So first step is father's blood group. Second step is the zygosity of the father, and the third step available can be prenatal determination of fetal blood group. But most of the times the second and the third step is not available with us, and if the father is positive, we just manage her like a Rh negative woman with Rh positive husband, presuming that the baby is Rh positive, and we go ahead and monitor her. Yeah, next slide, please. Next. Yeah,
Yes,
carry on, Soumya.
yes, ma'am. Then, when an Rh isoimmunization is detected, how we will get to know it? The ICT titers which we have done will be positive. Then after that, we will order for the titers. What is the value of the titers? Like to get an idea that
So
what is
I
the
think
severity of isoimmunization.
Soumya, just one moment, just one. So any Rh negative woman with a Rh positive husband, we have to monitor her for development of Rh isoimmunization. The test which we use is indirect Coombs test. How do we go ahead with it? We send one sample at the first visit when we come to know that the husband's blood group is Rh positive, and then it is repeated at 20 weeks, 24 weeks, and 28 weeks. Now, if this indirect Coombs test remains negative till 28 weeks, we will give her a shot of anti-D immune globulin, which is the method to prevent Rh isoimmunization. And some guidelines recommend another shot at 34 weeks, but the most common practice is to give anti-D at 28 weeks. We will discuss this a little more in little more detail in the forthcoming slides. Next slide, please, Soumya.
Yes, then there are type of NTDs. Either it can be a polyclonal antibodies which are derived from immunized donors. It is extracted by cold fragmentation from sera of individuals with high titers of NTD
So,
antibodies.
so
Or
these anti-immune globulins which Dr. Soumya is talking are those immune globulins which we administer to the woman when once her ICT is negative to prevent further isoimmunization. They can be either polyclonal or monoclonal. The advantage of monoclonal is that there is very little risk of transmission of infections like HIV, hepatitis B, and hepatitis C, all bloodborne infections. Next slide, please.
yes, then the mechanism of action of NTD immunoglobulin, it actually binds with the D antigen on the site of Rh positive RBCs and hence prevents recognition by maternal B lymphocytes and their transformation to IgG producing plasma cells. That
Yeah.
is here we can see. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So what happens is that whenever there is once you give this anti-D to the mother at 28 weeks, what happens is the moment some RBCs from Rh positive RBCs from the fetal circulation come to the maternal circulation, these antibodies are already present and they will immediately mop up these cells and remove from the circulation. So these cells are not available in the maternal circulation to sensitize the immune system to excite the immune system of the mother to recognize them as foreign and make antibodies against these Rh positive cells.
Then what will be the indications of NTD administration? One we have already
Soumya,
discussed.
can we go back one slide?
Yes,
You know
yes,
what actually happens is, let me brief you a little about the pathophysiology. What happens is that if there is a Rh positive fetus and there is any feto-maternal hemorrhage into the maternal circulation, they excite a immune reaction in the mother, and first antibodies which are formed are IgM antibodies against these Rh positive cells. Now IgM antibodies are quite big in size, so they are not able to, so whenever there is a first sensitization event, these IgM antibodies are formed, and these IgM antibodies are bigger in size, which are these are natural anti-IgM antibodies produced by the mother. The diagram is showing here. First pregnancy, there is leakage, there are IgM antibodies present, and these IgM antibodies are quite large in size. They cannot cross the placenta, so they don't reach the fetal circulation to damage the fetal cells, and hence in the first pregnancy usually there is no effect on the fetus. However, you can see in the lower part of the slide, whenever the second pregnancy occurs, even with a small dose, these memory cells get activated. They produce these IgG antibodies. These IgG antibodies are much smaller in size. The volume in which they are produced in the second event is quite large. They will cross the placenta and they will go and attach on the RBCs of the fetus, and they will start destroying the RBCs of the fetus, and that is why the fetus will gradually develop anemia. When the fetus is inside the mother's womb, the only manifestation is anemia, whether mild, then moderate, then severe, and then it goes to hydrops when the heart starts failing and fluid starts accumulating in various cavities. Okay, whereas on the right part of the slide where Dr. Soumya has shown prevention, there are already these ROGAM antibodies circulating in the maternal circulation. So as soon as the Rh positive cell comes into circulation, they mop up, they attach on the surface of these cells, and you can see now there are no and they are cleared from the circulation, and there are no this Rh positive fetal Rh positive cells to sensitize the mother. Next slide, please.
Then coming to indications of NTD administration, first will be ICT negative women, that we have already discussed, that which was the first step to rule out isoimmunization. Then any potential sensitizing event, that is which could have led into fetal-maternal hemorrhage. It can be either medical or surgical abortion.
We'll come to the whole list soon. And then we have to give a postpartum prophylaxis also. If the blood group of the, we send a sample of the baby immediately after the, in fact, we take a cord blood sample and we send it for a blood group analysis. And if the baby blood group is positive, and mind you, DCT has to be negative, in that case, you will again give the anti-D to the mother, so that all the cells, positive cells present in her circulation are mopped up by this anti-D, and in the next pregnancy there is no memory. This memory is not created in this pregnancy, and in the next pregnancy, if she has again a Rh positive fetus, even if there is a feto-maternal hemorrhage, there is no synthesis of IgM antibodies. IgG antibodies which can cross the placenta. So first indication is antenatal prophylaxis routine, where you are doing ICT and it is negative. Second is if in pregnancy there is any sensitizing event, then you have to top up. And third most important is postpartum. We'll detail it later on. Next slide, Soumya. We have to be fast. It is already 8:35.
Yes, ma'am. Then coming to doses of NTD immunoglobulin that we have to administer in first trimester abortion, generally 50 micrograms is given, and the idea is that in less than 20 weeks the dose is 50 micrograms, and in more than 20 weeks it is 100 microgram. And if fetal-maternal hemorrhage is more than this, then we have to quantify it and accordingly calculate the dose of NTD immunoglobulin and administer to the mother.
So then I want to make one thing clear here, that in threatened abortion, usually you don't need to give anti-D. We should make the slide correct next time. You have to give first trimester abortions, you have to give anti-D. If there is only threatened abortion, mild bleeding or mild pain, you don't have to give any anti-D. But if there is repeated bleeding or cramp-like excessive pain, then you will have to give. However, any termination of pregnancy, whether it is medical or surgical, anti-D has to be given. Ectopic, molar, chorionic villus sampling, all these anti-D have to be given. Next slide, please. Then these are the situations where you have to give a higher dose of anti-D. You can enumerate the.
Yes, ma'am. These indications are amniocentesis, second trimester abortion, that is more than 13 weeks period of gestation, fetal death more than 10 weeks, that is IUD, external cephalic version when we are doing, then antepartum hemorrhage. It can be either placenta previa or abruptio placentae or abdominal trauma. Then we have to increase the dose of NTD immunoglobulin.
No, Soumya, please. Here yes. You will give a single dose of 300 micrograms, and in certain situations we expect yes. more excessive feto-maternal hemorrhage. We will cover it in the subsequent slides. So if any of these events occur, you have to administer 300 micrograms. Next slide, please.
In doses of anti-D immunoglobulin, the routine prophylaxis, as we discussed, at 28 weeks, we give 300 micrograms as per ACOG recommendations, and 300 micrograms at 28 weeks, and repeated at 34 weeks as per recommendation of NICE and RCOG guidelines.
But
Again,
most commonly we are only giving 28 weeks in our country also, so it is good enough to remember that. Okay, most of us, we are only giving at 28 weeks. We are not giving it twice in the antenatal period. And in the postnatal period after delivery, you will give a routine antenatal prophylaxis only if your ICT is negative. So even in those events which we have enumerated in the previous slides, first do an ICT and see, and if it is, you would have an ICT report. Your previous ICT report should be negative. However, if an event occurs, please give it, and don't send an ICT and wait for the report to come. Okay. As far as your postpartum prophylaxis is concerned, it is ideal to give it within 72 hours of the delivery, provided the baby blood group is positive and DCT of the baby is negative, and the dose here is also 300 micrograms. So you will give one dose antepartum and one dose postpartum. And in case there is some reason that you have missed the 72 hours window, it can be given up to 4 weeks, although the efficacy will be little less, but one should give it, should not refrain from giving it. So one can give it up to 4 weeks. Next slide, Soumya. I think I'll rush up now. So how to conduct the delivery? You will not withhold oxytocin, but methergine is contraindicated. Nowadays, methergine is not the first line oxytocin given for prevention of PPH. So this becomes a little less relevant here. However, if a woman of Rh negative pregnancy bleeds and has PPH, please don't withhold any kind of oxytocin drug to save her life. This is very, very important. And okay, it is very important to remember this. And methergine has become now a third, fourth line drug even in management of PPH, and it is not the first line drug in prevention of PPH. Delayed cord clamping can still be done safely. 30 seconds, you should clamp the cord up to not earlier than 30 seconds. Okay. Then cord blood samples should be sent for baby blood group, direct Coombs test, serum bilirubin, and hematocrit. Soumya, you have not changed the slides. You have not brought up the slides which I have sent to you. ABG is not to be sent for baby. Just one moment. Okay, please delete this ABG and add hematocrit. Hematocrit is very important because you have to know the baby's whether the baby is anemic. Bilirubin, baby may have jaundice. DCT, because unless you do a DCT, you can't administer anti-D to the mother. And if the baby blood group is negative, then very good. Mother would not have any chance of ICU immunization, so you don't need to do anything. And the cord should be left long at the baby's end, because in case the baby needs an exchange transfusion, it has to be done through the umbilical cord, and the neonatologist will need it. Next, please. Then prophylaxis, I have already discussed, can given only after baby blood group DCT, and the dose and the route of anti-D administration, very important. It has to be given intramuscular and in deltoid muscle, no other site. Next, please. Then these are the situations where we expect a excessive feto-maternal hemorrhage. Soumya, can you define what is excessive feto-maternal hemorrhage?
Yes, ma'am. Any bleeding from genital tract at the time of delivery or before delivery, which is more than 500 ml for normal delivery and more than 1000.
Soumya, we are not talking of postpartum hemorrhage. We are talking of excessive feto-maternal hemorrhage. See, 300 microgram of anti-D is sufficient for how much feto-maternal hemorrhage? It is sufficient for, I think, 30 ml of feto-maternal hemorrhage, no?
Yes, ma'am. Any hemorrhage which will be more than
30 ml will not be covered by this much anti-D, and you need to give extra. These are the situations where you expect excessive feto-maternal hemorrhage like abruption, forceps, traumatic deliveries, stillbirth, cesarean section, and postpartum hemorrhage, and manual removal of placenta also. So in all these situations, next slide please, you have to assess whether the feto-maternal hemorrhage is excessive or not. For that, what is done is you first give the standard dose of 300 micrograms if any of this event occurs, and then there is a test known as Kleihor-Betke test, which is done in the maternal sample to see that after giving this anti-D, whether there are any more residual cells, Rh positive fetal cells in the maternal circulation. This is there is a principle of relative resistance of fetal hemoglobin to acid denaturation, and you have to administer additional 10 microgram of anti-D for every ml of fetal blood which exceeds 30 ml. So first step is, whenever these events occur, give 300 microgram of anti-D. Then after some time you will draw a maternal sample, you will send for Kleihor-Betke count. It will quantify the excessive hemorrhage, and according to that excessive hemorrhage you have to supplement the anti-D. Next slide please. Then how to manage an ICU-immunized woman? Now these are women who are either, you have been monitoring them, you're just monitoring them with ICT, which we mean first affected pregnancy. What is first affected pregnancy? When you are monitoring her with that ICT, and anytime the ICT comes positive, that is the first affected pregnancy. And previous affected, Dr. Soumya had already told you, that in previous baby either there was severe anemia or jaundice or stillbirth or hydrops, or the woman is carrying her records and there was ICT positive, isn't it? So those will be previous affected pregnancy. So first we will discuss the management of first affected pregnancy, which you have been monitoring with ICT. Next slide please. It was negative. This left pathway we have already discussed. Non-immunized, you will give her prevention of ICU immunization in the antenatal and the postnatal period. However, any time during the pregnancy, if the indirect Coombs test becomes positive, it gives you an indication that yes, the woman is becoming immunized, and now you have to target these women so that you do early detection and treatment of fetal anemia. So this is your pathway. Next slide please. Now anytime an ICT becomes positive, the next step is to ask the lab to do ICT titers. Okay, they will take the maternal sample, they will first say it is positive, then in serial dilutions they will do ICT, and this 1:16 figure which we are writing means there is the mother sample has been diluted to 16 times and still they can find the antibodies. So as long as the titers are more than 1:16, you will just keep on monitoring the woman with weekly, if the titers are less than 1:6, this 1:16 is a critical titer. Critical titer means it is a value below which no fetal death is seen within 1 week of birth due to fetal hemolytic disease. Okay, so it depends on different labs have a different critical value, and every lab has to write its critical value on the report. So as long as the levels remain below critical titer, you will just keep on repeating the ICT weekly and monitor the woman. However, if with increasing dilution of more than 16, the titers the ICT is still positive, it means that the antibody level is very large, and now it is time to check for fetal anemia. There is a very high likelihood that this baby may be having anemia, and to detect anemia we are going to do a fetal middle cerebral artery peak systolic velocity. It is an ultrasound method. Dr. Soumya has very nicely shown this. Soumya, can you describe this slide very quickly? We are running short of time.
Yes, ma'am. The anemia will cause hypoxia in the baby, and the cardiac output in anemia, as we know, is increased. And with it, there is hemolysis, and the decrease in blood viscosity also increases the turbulent flow. There is hyperdynamic circulation, which increases the peak systolic velocity of the middle cerebral artery. Here in the you can see in ultrasound how we focus the biparietal diameter axis plane, and there we see middle cerebral artery in transthalamic plane. We focus and we put our color Dopplers, and then
We
there
could
we
go a
measure
little
the
faster.
velocity.
Yeah. Now, once you get this peak systolic velocity, we have these normograms available for different gestational age. Now, please remember, for management of RH-ICU immunization, it is very important to know the correct gestational age, because the normal peak systolic velocity will keep on changing with the gestational age. So you can see these 4 zones here. Next slide, please, Soumya. Next.
Then we have
Come
to
back to the
calculate. Yes.
come back to the previous slide. Previous. Yeah. So, you know, these zones are there. Previous slide, Soumya, please. Previous. Yeah. Now you can see on the right hand side, the left chart is very nice. So this red line shows you the 1.5 moms of middle peak systolic velocity at all gestational ages. All right. So as long as between the green line and the red line is the zone which is mild to moderate anemia, below the green line is normal hemoglobin, no anemia, and above it is severe anemia. When the baby's hematocrit, when this moms start lying above 1.5, that is the time you have to intervene actively. It means the baby has severe anemia, and now we need to treat this baby. We can't leave the baby like this, otherwise in a few days it will develop hydrops, in another few days it will die in utero. Okay, next slide, please. So next slide, no, previous. So we have these online calculators available now, and we put in the gestational age, we put in the peak systolic velocity, and we have a fairly good idea what is the 1.5 mom, and whenever it crosses the 1.5 mom, we have to make active interventions. Next slide, please. As long as the middle cerebral artery peak systolic velocity remains less than 1.5 moms, we will just keep on following the woman with this Doppler interrogation every week. Every week we will call her, do it, and you have to tell the woman to maintain a very good fetal kick chart, because when baby has severe anemia, the movements decrease. Now, advantage of previously, how this is a breakthrough in the medical sciences. Uh, to detect fetal anemia, middle cerebral artery peak systolic velocity. Earlier, you know, long time back, say 2-3 decades back, to detect maternal severe anemia, repeated amniocentesis were done, and they used to estimate the serum bill concentration in um, this amniotic fluid by a Lilly's chart by putting it through an optical density, and very complicated. And disadvantage was every 1 or 2 weeks they were doing amniocentesis, which used to increase RH-ICU immunization in itself, plus there was risk of infection, risk of fetal loss. Now, advantage of this peak systolic velocity middle cerebral arteries, it has reduced invasive procedures by 70%, and it is not affected by cause of anemia, whether it is hemolytic disease of newborn by or it is any other cause of anemia. There will be increase in the peak systolic velocity, and it has a very high accuracy of about sensitivity of 100% at a false positive rate of 12%. Next, please. You can skip this. So amniocentesis is obsolete now for detection of fetal anemia. Next. So if the first pregnancy is affected, this slide we have already shown you.
This
Next.
slide, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So we are going to do MCA peak systolic velocity monitoring weekly. And if the moms remain 1.5, you will keep on following her weekly, and you will deliver her at 37 to 38 weeks. However, if the moms increase and if the period of gestation is already 34, you can inform the nursery, and you have to deliver her with everything ready in the nursery. This delivery should be at a tertiary center with good neonatal services, who can manage neonatal jaundice, phototherapy, exchange transfusion, whatever the baby needs. If the period of gestation is less than 34 weeks, then now a fetal medicine specialist intervention is required. You have to do a fetal blood sampling, and you have to check the hematocrit, and then you have to do an intrauterine transfusion. Now, as far as all this is concerned, it has to be done in one go. We are doing it in our department. On Saturday only, I have done an intrauterine transfusion. The mother was carrying a severe anemia with high drops. Okay, I think, Soumya, we don't have time. Can we just go back to that slide? So whenever we do a intrauterine transfusion, you have to make, whenever we are planning a fetal cord sampling, it has to be done simultaneously. You will do a sampling and you will prepare the fetal blood. You have to prepare the blood, which is an O negative, leukodepleted, gamma irradiated blood with a very high hematocrit of 75 to 85%. And we do it under aseptic conditions with ultrasound and under ultrasound guidance. Next slide, please. You have to send that sample immediately. You aspirate about 2 to 3 cc samples, send it for blood grouping and hematocrit urgently. And by the time the sample report comes back, you slowly start transfusing. The baby which we had transfused day before yesterday had a hematocrit of only 12%. And if hematocrit is less than 30%, then you have to do a intrauterine transfusion. There are two methods, intraperitoneal and intravascular. Intraperitoneal is obsolete and intravascular is done nowadays. And the target hemoglobin, hematocrit, which we want to have in the fetus is 50 to 60%. Next, please. So advantage, yeah. Next. They don't need to know so much about. Next, please. So
Yes.
now I hope I have made it clear that if the peak systolic velocity of middle cerebral artery exceeds more than 1.5 moms, then you have to plan a cordocentesis along with intrauterine transfusion. Do a cordo, take out the baby blood group, baby fetus blood, send it for blood grouping and hematocrit, and start your transfusion. But we do it on site. We have a hemoglobinometer. Yesterday's sample, I think the hemoglobin was shown to be 3.8. It should have been minimum 10, and we had transfused almost 60 ml of blood, Soumya, isn't it? 50,
Yes,
50. Yeah.
50.
If now any woman who is already, we know she was isomimmunized in the previous pregnancy, just remember you will start monitoring this woman from 18 weeks onwards with MCA peak systolic velocity. No role of ICT in these women. Okay, so you will monitor in the same way. Start at 18 weeks. In the beginning up to 24, you can do 2 weekly. Then you will monitor weekly. Anytime her peak systolic velocity rises, then the same protocol. More than 1.5, do a cordo and prepare for IUT hematocrit. Less than 30%, do an intrauterine transfusion. This we can skip. There are other antigens also in that. Just back, please. In that, KEL is most important. Okay, it not only causes hemolysis, it suppresses fetal erythropoiesis also, and management is same. These women have to be monitored with peak systolic velocity, middle cerebral artery. No role of ICT here. And then if there is severe anemia, plan cordocentesis and IUT. Next slide, please. Now, any woman who's RH negative with the RH positive husband has got ICT negative all through the pregnancy. You can take her safely to 40 weeks and then deliver her, but don't let these women deliver beyond 40 weeks. If it is a mildly or unaffected pregnancy, sorry, if it is a mildly unaffected, then please change here, 38 weeks. Okay, we had talked there, no, anytime ICT becomes positive, 38 weeks. Soumya, this has to be changed. Then severely affected pregnancies, we have already told you, they have to be managed by fetal medicine people and by neonatologists. So it should be a tertiary center with all the facilities available, both for intrauterine transfusion and postnatal management of the neonate. And vaginal delivery is allowed. Very, very important. Please send the cord sample for blood grouping and RH typing, hematocrit, bilirubin, and DCT. Next slide, please. Management of hypertensive disease of the fetus and newborn. If it is a symptomatic anemia in the newborn, simple transfusion can be done with cross-matched blood. If it is there can be late anemia also, because maternal antibodies persist in the circulation till 12 weeks. So these babies have to be monitored till 3 months for any anemia, and the baby may require any transfusion. And hyperbilirubinemia, if there is then baby needs either phototherapy or exchange transfusion. And the next slide, please. And indications for exchange transfusions are if the cord hemoglobin is less than 10 gram. I think cord bilirubin is 15, Soumya, not 5.
Yes, ma'am.
Please check this. This is 15 milligram. And rate of serum bill is more than 0.5 milligrams per hour. Sometimes, you know, when the baby is very deeply jaundiced, they may even do a hourly sample or 4 hourly sample. And if there is a bilirubin induced neurological dysfunction, then also baby needs exchange transfusion. Next. So now we can go back to that video and show them the video of IUP. How long is that?
Ma'am, it is not very long, 1.5 minutes, ma'am.
Yeah, then
And we have 5 minutes left, ma'am.
okay. Are there any questions in the chat box? Yeah, this is somebody has asked a question. Ma'am, if already ICT positive.
Yeah. If patient is ICT positive and it is, yes, ma'am. It is less.
Not
Yes,
needed. Of course, bache, this is Dr. Harshita Chaudhary who has asked this question. Of course, if she is ICT positive, there is no role of giving her anti-D because these antibodies have already there in her circulation and they are harming the baby. Because these antibodies are already there in the maternal circulation, they are crossing the placenta and going to the fetal circulation. The anti-D which we give is IgM. They are large. They cannot cross the placenta. So there is no use because now the mother circulation has started producing IgG from her memory cells. So you can see I am having a needle in my hand under ultrasound guidance. We have given local anesthesia under ultrasound guidance. I have seen the site of the cord and I am going to introduce my needle here. Soumya, we don't have the video of the ultrasound picture.
Ma'am, later on we have in this.
Okay, so we are introducing the needle. Actually ये insert में डालना चाहिए था आपको और उसको साथ साथ दिखाना चाहिए था. Anyway, we'll do it next time. Now we are going to remove the stillet and see. You can see the fetal blood is coming in the syringe. Can you see that? Now there is a question how to check for feet. So now we had sent that sample and this sample is that O negative leukodepleted high hematocrit gamma irradiated blood. Now we have aspirated that from the blood bank and now we will push it into the maternal circulation. Soumya, can you show the video of the ultrasound picture?
Ma'am, side by side I've inserted the slide.
It was not clear. It was very clear that day. This is not a.
This is ma'am last year's, the video is of that one.
इसने परसों वाला नहीं दिया, इसने कोई पुरानी वीडियो दी है.
Yes, ma'am, this one is the last one.
Yeah.
This is
Okay,
not the like yesterday's. Yeah, ma'am.
you should have shown
the
the
day
one
before yesterday.
day before yesterday.
Ma'am, this was complete in one, so I took this one. And
So
ma'am, we were just discussing, ma'am, the criteria for exchange transfusion. Ma'am, cord bilirubin level is more than 5 mg per dl, and indirect bilirubin is ma'am more than 20.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So somebody has written how to check for neurological deficit in fetus, ma'am. Nilyan Sarkar. Yeah, you know, by that time, Soumya, you can come back to that slide where you have shown how to do the ICT DCT. They want to see that diagram. Huh? So see, the baby is limp, the cry is poor, the tone of the body is decreased. And once a baby has, these are the signs of neurological. And you know, the jaundice is very deep. Sometimes the eyes will be rolled up. So these are the signs of anyway, when you get signs of neurological deficit, before that you can obviously see jaundice and the bill is always done.
Ma'am, 1 minute is left in the class. I don't know it will continue or not.
Okay, so I think we have answered. Are we
And then
transfusing normal blood to fetus since fetal hemoglobin is different? We transfuse adult blood which is O negative. And It is leukodepleted, means so that the reactions are less. It is gamma irradiated so that it is CMV negative, and we make a high hematocrit blood so that we don't overload the circulation, and we are able to give maximum number of RBCs. Okay. So we are transfusing adult blood only. It doesn't make a difference whether the hemoglobin is fetal or adult. But we are giving O negative adult blood, right? So I think with that we finish the class.
Any more doubts we
Soumya,
can
ये
post, ma'am.
खत्म हो जाएगा क्या 1 minute में?
No, ma'am. It's like it's already past 9 and it is not ended. It means
Okay, so I think all the
if
questions
there's
are
any more
answered, and from our side the class is done. So we can all call it a day. So that's it.
I'm
Shall
seeing if
we?
there is any other question.
There
There
are
are
no
no
other
other
questions.
questions, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Soumya, we can close the class now.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, students.
And
Thank
please
you so
sign
much,
your
ma'am.
name before you close the class.
Okay, ma'am.
Shall I leave?
Yes, ma'am. I'm ending the webinar. Thank you.
Okay.